Welcome in, everyone, and thank you for listening to the 203rd ever episode of the Missouri Sports Podcast, brought to you by 106 Apparel and recording from the Revel Advertising Studio in beautiful Springfield, Missouri. I'm one of your hosts, Cameron Albert, alongside my good friend and fellow Mizzou fan, Kyle DeVries. How are you doing today, Kyle?
I'm doing great, Cameron. How are you?
I'm doing well. We all matching shirts.
How embarrassing.
Yeah. Not planned,
Not
by the
playing.
way.
Yeah, we just did it.
I just wanted to address it out front.
We need to
aware
get it
of
out of the way. Yep. Yeah, just get out of the way early.
Some things you just want to address at the top. Some things maybe you don't address until the end of the show.
I don't know what that's about.
Me neither. It's not like we forgot that. No, we didn't forget anything. We remembered. Kyle, how are you actually doing?
What do you mean? I'm doing great. How are you?
Fine.
What? Okay.
All right. I just didn't know if we had any banter or anything before we get into the meat of the show.
Yeah, sometimes I have to get to be provoked a little bit. You gotta ask me a specific question.
I can't. It would be forced, honestly.
Okay, that's fine.
So we can just move on.
We all know why we're here.
Yeah. Why we're here. Thank you. We're here to talk about SEC Media Days, and then any news relevant to Mizzou football, Mizzou basketball. And then I thought of a kind of a fun little segment for later. What we're going to do is give in our opinions, the perfect Mizzou football schedule. So if we were the ones sitting down making the schedule, who would we play, in what order, what games at home, what games away? We'll give our lists and discuss. But before we do all of that, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, leave us a review on the podcast platform that you use, and of course you can support us on Patreon, patreon.com/Missouri Sports Pod. You can support directly. There's different tiers for different perks. Patreon.com/Missouri Sports Pod. Before we get into SEC Media Days, there's a big announcement tonight, right?
Yeah, tonight. Yeah.
9 p.m. Central. So it will have already happened by the time people are listening to this. Joshua Manning making his decision. It was postponed once. Kansas State, Mizzou, anybody else in the running?
That's pretty. I mean, he's taken visits to other regional schools like Arkansas, Iowa, I think. But yeah, I think it's really down to Mizzou and Kansas State.
You got a prediction for us?
Yeah,
the
I think
crystal balls have been looking good for Mizzou.
Yeah, good vibes for sure. The whole thing was maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago he announced he was going to announce his commitment, and it seemed like Kansas State was going to land Josh Manning, and then he pushed back his commitment date, kind of late notice, all of a sudden, out of nowhere. And definitely the information that seemed to be coming out from both sides was that Missouri was trying to kind of make a last-minute play, probably NIL related, of course, and now here we are 3 weeks later, and it definitely seems like Missouri is the front runner. So I don't know what happened behind the scenes, but Drinkwitz seems to kind of pull a rabbit out of the hat for sure, and it's exciting.
Yeah, he tweeted a GIF earlier today of presumably him waiting on something, and we can assume it is this announcement.
Yeah, 9 p.m. What do you think about that?
That's fine.
You gonna be awake?
Yeah. In fact, we are going to record our reaction to the announcement and give our quick reaction, our thoughts on it. Either way, either we'll be happy, disappointed, and we're going to publish that for the Patreon supporters only. So if you want exclusive content like that, go over to Patreon. It's not exclusive, though, for you to give us your prediction.
Oh, you're talking to me?
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought you were talking in the comments or something with that. It makes
when
literally
you see
no
this
sense
after
at
it's
all.
already happened.
Yes, when it's already announced, tell us who you think it's going to be.
100% correct.
Yeah, I'm thinking Mizzou for sure.
Yeah, why not? Even if it was more of a toss-up than it is, we're gonna predict the good guys. If it's 50-50, I will.
Okay.
You use your brain, I'll use my heart. Both in this case are telling me Mizzou
For sure.
I wanted to also give a shout out and a little bit of an apology to one of our subscribers on YouTube. I thought I was just reading some random YouTube username, but our guy, Man at Arms, he's producing content. He's in our comments, giving good thoughts, and he's making beats,
Yes,
ladies
he's
and
making
gentlemen.
beats.
And they slap. So his full channel is called Man at Arms Slaps. And I was checking his stuff out. Very cool.
Yeah, if you see him in the comments, say hello.
So shout out to him, and go listen to his stuff over in his channel. Pretty cool. That brings us to SEC Media Days. And seems like not as much in the news this year. Maybe a little bit more of a low-key appearance from Mizzou football. It was towards the beginning of the whole event. So, I don't know. I guess take it away. Did you have any thoughts or anything noteworthy?
Yeah, I have a few thoughts for sure. Just general thoughts on Drinkwitz and his performance. If you want to call it a performance, it kind of is. Last year, he rolled in like super confident. He was chirpy. He was saying anything on his mind, which kind of seems like that's just kind of who he is. But he was coming out of a great year one. At that time, thought he had the quarterback of the future in Connor Bazelak. Things were, not that things aren't looking up now, but things were really looking up after his first season. And I felt like his actions reflected that almost to the extreme, where it was like, all right, it was almost like let's tone it down a little bit. And this year he toned it down a little bit, and it was like, let's let our talking on the field, let's our performance on the field do the talking.
Mm-hmm.
And he was not quite as chirpy as he was last year. He was still himself, but definitely had a little bit different vibe. So I think we got some good kind of nuggets out of SEC Media Days about the quarterback situation, maybe the overall talent of the team and how Coach feels about that, maybe a couple of injury notes and stuff too. So just kind of wanted to dive into some of those things.
Yeah.
Barrett Bannister, Martez Manuel, and Isaiah McGuire were the three players that represented
Good group.
Mizzou. Yeah, good group. Barrett Bannister, he's 85 years old. He's very wise. And Martez Manuel is kind of like, the rah-rah guy.
Yeah.
A local,
True son.
And Isaiah McGuire is about to probably blow up and be great this season. So, actually, before I get to the Mizzou stuff, I kind of wanted to just make note of one thing that Greg Sankey said about just the general feeling of the SEC. He just said that there's no immediate pressure right now to feel like they need to add more teams. They're kind of standing pat at 16. But also kind of added at the end that, we'll stay nimble though. And, we're still answering the phones because teams are calling them and saying, hey, what's up? So, it sounds like probably for the foreseeable future, however long that is, next 5 years, next 10 years, maybe 10 years seems like a long way away, but it sounds like they're standing pat for now, but
that could change
in an instant,
a month from now. Yeah.
Exactly. But they're keeping their options open. So, and he also mentioned,
is there anything there? Like, we're good at 16. Yeah, of course. Like, you were good at 14, right?
Yeah, I don't know.
So
I think
you're good until the right teams come calling,
I guess,
and the right deal is in place.
For sure.
I don't know. That feels like kind of a nothing remark to me.
Yeah.
Not to.
He said the SEC is in the strongest place it's ever been.
Sure.
Would you agree with that?
I mean,
just wait till Texas infiltrates.
I haven't been around the SEC that long in the grand scheme of things. So, yeah, it seems pretty good as far as I remember.
Seems quite strong.
Yeah. Actually, this is totally random, but I had growing up a random basketball that was probably like given to me, like a hand-me-down or something, that had all the SEC logos on it. And I had no idea who any of them were. I'm like 8 years old. And for some reason, I just remember having this basketball with the SEC logos.
Wow.
Like,
you don't even know who Alabama is?
Bunch of Bulldogs on this basketball.
Bunch of Bulldogs.
Yeah. Multiple Bulldogs.
That's awesome.
Thanks.
You still have it?
No. I used it a lot. It got all worn out. Couldn't see any of the logos anymore.
Yeah. Are you a baller, would you say?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Back in the day.
Okay, the other thing was there was a lot of talk about NIL, of course, and how it's just kind of like running rampant and there's no rules and all that stuff. We talked about that a lot this summer. It just feels like the general feeling, even it's just like it's weird because it's just openly talked about by, executives and coaches are just all saying like, yeah, there's this thing and it's crazy and there's no controlling it and we don't know what we're doing. and we don't know how to stop it, but it needs to be stopped. It needs to be like trimmed a
Yeah.
little bit. And that's basically like just everybody's just openly saying that, like, yep, NIL's insane. What have we done? And that's how it is now. And it probably needs some restrictions, but we don't know how to do that. So that's basically was the general feel on an NIL. Okay, so we'll jump into Mizzou related stuff, some stuff that Drinkwitz said in some like smaller Mizzou related circles, and then we'll talk about what he said on the main stage. But something he said a little in the more private groups was that he feels like this is the most talented team he's had in his third season, but it's also the most difficult schedule that they've had so far. They have 5 true road games in some tough locations. Obviously, Kansas State is right off the bat, second game of the year. And then I think some tough SEC games on the road as well, as that always is.
Mm-hmm.
But so he talked about the quarterback situation a little bit. He says he thinks there's enough talent at quarterback, but he's kind of waiting for someone to show the team that they should be the starter. And he made that same comment on the main stage as well. So that's very much just seems to be how he feels about the situation, at least from a public standpoint, is that he's just waiting for someone to kind of show that they're the guy. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I mean, that's the way I hear that is like it's Brady Cook's job. That honestly, like if you're looking for somebody that has the team behind him, that's Brady Cook. If you're looking for a guy that has built some relationships with the receivers and the offensive line and the running backs, that's gonna be Brady Cook. And I'm assuming here that on the coaching staff, from their point of view, Brady Cook is a step ahead of Macon at this point.
Okay.
Because that's kind of what it looked like was the case last year.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, he got a start when we weren't sure who it was going to be.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. I feel like it's a
pro-Cook statement,
yeah.
potentially? Okay.
I mean, that's how I interpret it. I don't think you expect the and we know that kind of stuff is happening in the background. We know that Cook has the support of some of the offensive weapons,
mm-hmm.
and he seemed to have support from the defense last year, when he was thrown in there. And I just can't imagine that, you bring in a grad transfer and he's going to kind of usurp the guy that's been around as far as with relationships and stuff.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective. I actually perceived it in a almost opposite way,
okay.
where I was thinking Brady Cook has had a really long time to show he's the guy. And if Drinkwitz is still saying something like this, like, yeah, I think we've got a group of guys, but I'm still kind of waiting for someone to stand out, it almost sounds to me like it's not Brady Cook because he's had that opportunity for a long time and hasn't seized it.
Yeah, I see that.
But
I would maybe push back and just say that even if Coach Drinkwitz had decided, he would still say something like this.
Exactly.
Maybe he's almost like, well, I have a built-in quarterback controversy competition. I have no reason to let anybody know who the starter is going to be until the day before the game,
mm-hmm.
basically.
Exactly, and I don't think we will know until the day of the game potentially, which is scary and exciting at the same time. But you kind of touched on it. It does seem like Brady Cook has the support of the team, and he posted something on Instagram recently that said the caption was coming out swinging, and it was a picture of him with celebrating with his teammates or something like that. And there was like some support from fellow teammates on in the comments and stuff. And I mean, I don't want to get ahead of myself here, but I just am imagining a potentially strange situation if Brady Cook doesn't win the job, and not that there's a revolt or something, but that there's maybe some hard feelings from some of the other guys on the team. It's I feel like we could be entering some potentially interesting scenarios.
And that is also just kind of like a classic fan perspective to have. Like even, I feel like we are pretty good about, taking in all the information, not overreacting to any piece of it. But that's still, I feel like the best we can do is sort of speculate on some of these inner team dynamics.
Right.
But those things definitely exist. But it's hard from the outside to figure out,
exactly
how the tides are turning.
We could definitely be completely overreading that. Okay, and speaking of Jack Abraham, it seemed like a lot of the reporters were asking about him. And Drinkwitz said that he's a leader with great experience. He's basically been exactly what we hoped and thought he would be. So, yeah, it's definitely just an interesting dynamic. Two pretty totally different situations with Cook and Abraham for sure, and what they've done in their careers.
I do get worried. I think I've said this before, but I do get worried that if Abraham is named the starter, that there's going to be this like palpable disappointment among the fan base that I hope
there will be some of that.
Yeah,
I promise.
I mean, if they go out and win games with him and he's performing well, people will forget about it pretty quick, I think. But his leash in the fan base's mind is going to be extremely short.
I agree. Okay, so moving over to the main stage, this is Drinkwitz just kind of making some opening comments and stuff. He basically just said, he was talking about NIL, basically the same thing I said earlier, just it's going crazy. We need to kind of figure out a plan here for the future. He basically just said amateurism in college football is dead. And to call it amateurism is his hypocrisy is the word he used. So
okay,
I'm not really sure exactly what that means, but
maybe not perfect word choice.
Maybe not perfect word choice, but basically, it's not an amateur sport anymore.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you could say that's been the case for a while.
Probably.
Yeah.
He's talked about Blake Baker, the defensive coordinator, said that was an easy decision, and the defense will be improved. So, is that the defense is better than the defense we had in the first half of last year or the end of the year?
Just honestly, give me something just like what we had at the end of the year.
Sure.
Let's not regress from that, please.
Yeah, I agree. Chris Abrams-Drain is going to be playing more cornerback than nickel this year, so that just tells me they're trying to get him on the field as much as possible. Obviously, if he's, nickel formations are kind of like passing situations, so they want to do everything they can to make sure they're not limiting how much he's on the field because he's probably one of the best players in the defense.
He's been getting a lot of love from these professional grading services, and he's been on some draft boards specifically for the position group. I've seen him on some top 5 defensive backs for the upcoming NFL draft.
For sure. Yeah, Abrams-Drain will definitely be one to watch this year as a guy who could really shoot up draft boards and have a chance to make a lot of money in the next few years. And then this is just a super general thing that I added, but Drinkwitz seems he's been very outspoken about rivalries recently, making sure that rivalries are maintained and just kind of talking about the importance of that with like fan interest and all that stuff. So he said that he is all for restoring rivalries with Texas and Oklahoma. So you would expect him to say that, but it's still, it's exciting.
And Sam Pittman, Arkansas head coach, came out and said that, he was asked like, oh, if, imagine you had a pod of 4 teams, who would you like to see as your permanent rivals? And he just flat out said, seems like Missouri, Texas, and Oklahoma would be a good fit.
Yep.
And so that's been speculated on, as soon as when Texas and Oklahoma were just rumors, it was like, oh, okay, this kind of seems like it would make sense. And I still don't love it, but I can learn to love it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, another interesting thing that's like semi-related to that is something Greg Sankey said as well, is that OU and Texas like made a good fit in the SEC because of like Mizzou's history specifically with those schools and how they thought. I thought that was kind of random that he said that, but kind of cool that they apparently have been really considering Mizzou and its history with some of those schools going back a long time.
Yeah.
So that's pretty much all the like interview type stuff. A couple of like injury notes were that Kyron Montgomery had another knee surgery, but it just sounded like a really minor one. He just had kind of a knee scope this time. He obviously tore his ACL last summer and had surgery, and maybe this might kind of just been a little cleanup to follow up with that.
Yeah, that was like scary news at first.
Yeah.
Like that he maybe re-injured something,
right.
But yeah, it sounds like it's not
sounds like it's not a huge
issue.
deal. He's gonna probably miss the first couple weeks of fall camp and then hopefully be ready to go for the season. But obviously, Kyron Montgomery is a guy that people have high expectations for, and rightfully so. He's I think he's a high ceiling kind of player. Has really bulked up and might play on the inside a little bit more than we thought he might whenever he was a recruit. So. And then I think we already knew Hiron White was going to miss some time in the season. I can't remember. Maybe he has a shoulder injury or something, but he's kind of has dealt with a lot of injuries in his career, but will probably miss some of this season as well. I think that's it.
Relatively quiet. I don't know.
I'd say so.
Yeah, I mean, you said earlier that Mizzou going early, it kind of, for
Yeah.
Mizzou fans, like, do I really want to hear all these coaches talk about, do I really want to hear 14 coach speak and, trying to give the media something but not really give up too much?
Right.
It's becomes the same thing over and over again almost.
Yeah, Drinkwitz said that, this time he'd be a little quieter because he's one of the first ones to go.
Oh, sure.
And he doesn't have any material to make fun of people for about this time. I think it's honestly more just because he just doesn't, I don't know, want to make an idiot of himself. But he just was still pretty, candid in like a interview I saw him do with Paul Feinbaum. They were just kind of goofing around and stuff. So he was definitely still himself.
Yeah, I guess that's the opportunity to kind of keep it light, not take things too seriously. He seems to enjoy those opportunities.
Yeah.
All right, that's SDC Media Days. Still feels like a long way till game one, but it's, basically a month away.
Yeah, I feel like SEC Media Days is always kind of like that first just like bite of like real content and just seeing I don't know. It's something about just like seeing the media people that you recognize on the TV again and stuff. It's just like, okay, I haven't seen these, these SEC people in a while.
Graphics packages and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, all the coaches, and they're like, okay, I haven't really thought about these people in like 9 months, and it's getting real. It's around the corner.
Kind of for me, honestly, mentally, it helps me like turn the corner from last season to this season.
Yeah.
Even spring ball, even the spring game, honestly, doesn't do that for me as much as SEC Media Days and then transitioning into fall camp. All right, so let us know your thoughts about Media Days if you want. If there was something you noticed maybe from one of the other coaches or anything you thought was interesting, let us know in the comments.
I kind of thought there might be some like Jimbo, Nick Saban stuff, but nobody really wanted to mess with it. Nobody wanted to touch that.
I imagine,
nobody wanted to be that reporter.
I imagine there was maybe some, I imagine that's our dinner. Producer Cameron's bringing in. I imagine there could have been some notes or something like, hey, maybe let's not focus on this too much.
Yeah.
All right, so we are going to lay out what we view would be the perfect Mizzou football schedule. 12 games, 8 SEC games, and we'll see what you guys think. And if we missed anything, let us know.
You laid out a few stipulations.
Yeah.
If you want to explain those things too.
What were they?
That the team is good.
Oh,
the team is contending.
Yes, this is an imaginary situation where what would you want the schedule to be if Mizzou was considered decent to good going into the season?
Yeah.
And I was kind of joking, like the media, I don't know what would have to happen for Mizzou to be like favored to win the SEC East or like, make the SEC championship game preseason.
Right.
Like that would be incredible, but
we'd have to stack some good years.
Yes. So we're imagining we're like on the cusp of that. There's a little bit of preseason hype. We got some upperclassmen that should be contributing and making an impact. So there's an opportunity with the right schedule to make a splash, maybe end up in the SEC championship game. And for me, that is all starting out with a classic rivalry matchup that's coming back soon. And I have us starting out playing Illinois in St. Louis. I don't even know if there's a football stadium in St. Louis anymore, but we're going to build one just for this game.
Edward Jones Dome is definitely still there, but I don't know if it's like operational.
Yeah.
Also, by the way, we did 4 non-conference games,
Yeah.
8 conference games, and conferences like the SEC West, SEC East don't really exist. They kind of just picked and chose.
And whether or not they actually made our final schedules, we're talking about an SEC where Oklahoma and Texas are a part of it.
Yes, that as well. So
I got to start now with a neutral site game against Illinois.
yeah, I got a away game against Nebraska.
Okay.
Kind of wanted that classic Big 12 feel. Also, I kind of felt like it would just be dumb to make all of my non-conference games like home or something like that. So I felt like Nebraska is a pretty like legendary environment, like crazy fan base and like well-attended games, like no matter who they're playing. So I just decided to to make that the away non-conference game to start off the year.
I have a home game against Nebraska as the week 2 game on the schedule.
Wow.
I don't want the Mizzou fans to have to go to the state of Nebraska.
I understand that.
So I say we have it at home and gives us a better chance to win.
Mm-hmm.
And when it comes to scheduling Nebraska, in this imaginary perfect schedule, we just play them at home every year.
Of course. I've got Illinois as my second game, and I just penciled that in as a home game, but I like your idea about, of course, playing that in St. Louis like I think they've done in the past. So if they want to resurrect the Edward Jones Dome for one yearly game of Mizzou versus Illinois, that'd be pretty cool.
Could you play, would it be possible to play a football game at Busch Stadium? I wonder if they could
probably
somehow make that work.
Yeah, they've played in baseball stadiums before.
Don't I feel like the Raiders or somebody.
They have played in a multi-use stadium for a long time.
You could probably figure it out. I've been to a concert at Busch Stadium. That was interesting.
That's true. They do host lots of events like that.
Mm-hmm.
I say let's lay a football field down there.
Yeah.
All right, Illinois and Nebraska. And either way, this Mizzou team, in this 1 year of this schedule, those are both wins.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Sorry, producer Cameron.
Starting off 2-0. Then I've got us going into SEC play. Maybe, I don't know how bye weeks work, whatever, but I got us going into SEC play right here at the third game of the season. And it's a tough one. But this is how we could really make our name this season. If we weren't ranked preseason, this is going to do it because we're going where we've had luck before, on the road at Georgia.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's a big one. That's a tough game, right? Starting off SEC play, but I feel like we've done that a few times. Like Georgia's been our first SEC game. I have got us easing into SEC play for my third game. But we are on the road against Kentucky.
Okay.
Speaking of Kentucky, I forgot to bring this up earlier, but at SEC Media Days, Martez Manuel brought up that he hates Kentucky more so than Arkansas personally.
Okay.
Because I guess he has some maybe Kentucky was the first start he ever had and they lost that game, and then he brought up the untimed down game with a PI call in the end zone and that kind of stuff, and so there was some back and forth between some Mizzou and Kentucky people on Twitter this week. So we got to beat Kentucky this year. I'm just saying that, and in this very fake scenario, we got to beat Kentucky on the road.
All right. And, whatever happens the rest of the way, Georgia, they were preseason top 10 in this imaginary scenario that I'm concocting, and we just knocked them off at their place. And but that's not going to look as good as at the end of the season as it is right now. But we're hyped right now. We just went on the road and knocked off Georgia.
Did you factor in a bye week? I didn't.
Sort of. I'm just doing games.
Yeah,
don't worry about weeks. There could have been a bye week right there before the Georgia game.
Okay, sounds good.
Game number 4.
Yeah, who's your fourth?
I've got us at home against South Carolina.
Okay.
That's, for me personally, one of my favorite quote-unquote rivalries since Missouri has joined the SEC. I feel like there's just been some really classic games in this short amount of time, and it seems pretty even. And I don't know. I don't think I'm going to upset too many people by saying I feel like South Carolina and Missouri in recent history, comparable programs.
Yeah. I would say so. Yeah, I think that's a good rivalry. Kind of similar programs on similar trajectories, and we've had some great games.
Oh, by the way, my schedule is quite a gauntlet. I mean, it is a tough schedule.
This is a gauntlet for sure. My fourth game is again another away SEC game at Tennessee.
Okay.
I kind of tried to put some of the maybe easier teams in air quotes on the road. Tennessee, as much as I hate them, that's a pretty famous and iconic stadium. I've never been there. Would like to maybe someday. That might be kind of a cool little trip someday if we think Missouri's going to win.
Yeah.
But that's my fourth game.
Okay.
Easy dubs, right?
Yeah. Home against South Carolina. Yeah. I don't know. I can't have them go undefeated even in this imaginary situation. I'm going to actually say they get upset by South Carolina. They were still celebrating the Georgia win.
Wow.
And we'll see if it comes back to haunt them later.
Okay. Am I supposed to be doing win-loss on?
I don't know. Whatever you want to do.
We've definitely won every game so far. I'll do that.
So then I'm giving us back-to-back home games. After the disappointing loss against South Carolina, we host Oklahoma because they're in the SEC now, and I'm guessing I'm down for that.
Okay.
We're gonna have Oklahoma, back at Faroe Field. We all remember 2010 College Game Day, returning the opening kickoff. Historic moment, long-time rivalry going back to the Big 12. Missouri not on the good side of that very often. I'm going to say that we bounce back and get the win at home against Oklahoma.
I'm going on a similar trajectory here as you. I've got as my 5th game a home game against Texas. I think I tried to overall, have some classic matchups, have some but also some classic SEC games. But this is definitely dipping back into that classic Big 12 game, getting Texas at home. And maybe this is a hot take, but I don't think their stadium's as iconic as some of these other SEC stadiums, so we're going to beat them at home.
Okay, I kind of am along the same lines as you. I have Texas next. I have us playing at Texas because we're just going to go in there and win, because who is scared to go play at Texas nowadays?
Absolutely no one.
And none of the Mizzou players and coaching staff and everything, they're not scared of Texas. Mm-hmm. I feel like Texas back in the Big 12 days, that was like, I don't ever want to play them. We're just going to lose always.
Right. Yep.
And,
all the Mizzou guys are doing the horns down on the field.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we're just stomping them.
Yeah. It's
a beautiful sight.
Yeah, Texas sucks nowadays. They're not back.
No, they're not back, folks.
And we go on the road, and then it's like, okay, we're stacking wins now against Oklahoma and Texas.
Oh, yeah.
Like this,
you're cruising.
We're turning it around. That South Carolina game, way in the past.
Okay. Well, unfortunately, I have to break it to you. In my 6th game, we lose on the road at LSU.
Oh, yeah.
Classic stadium, Death Valley. I've been there. I've told that story before.
Mm-hmm.
It's a great venue, even when your team is getting beaten by 17 touchdowns or whatever it was.
The people are going to be friendly.
Darius Geis is running for 500 yards on you, and Leonard Fournette is injured and still ran for 200 yards. And the people were friendly. Food's great. Even though we lost, and I just wrote a W, I meant to write an L. We lost, but it's okay. We can recover from that.
Yeah, understandable. My next game is a home game against Florida. I like playing Florida. I think it's fun. We've had good matchups with them over the years. I feel like Florida is people might take offense when I say we're at the same program level as South Carolina. Maybe we're slightly ahead of them, but I would say most people would put Florida ahead of us. And I want Missouri to be in that Florida tier of year in, year out. We're talked about as one of the, being in the top half of the conference every single year. There's never, at least in preseason talks, there's never a doubt that Florida is going to be considered in the top half of the league. Mm-hmm. And that's where I want Missouri to be. So we're going to win a home game against Florida on my imaginary schedule.
That was your 6th game?
Yep.
Okay, that's a big win. That's just a classic SEC.
That was my
team.
7th game.
7th game. Okay, yeah. My 7th game is I'm gonna dip back into the non-conference arena, and we're gonna beat Kansas State at home. And this was the 4th of 4 non-conference games for me to decide upon. I had 3 pretty automatic ones that came to mind, and then I was struggling with my last non-conference game. But Kansas State, I still think is obviously that regional opponent that's a Big 12 foe from old days. So that's still a really fun game, and I'm really looking forward to playing them in real life here in a couple months. So, but yeah, that'll be a win for this fake scenario.
So you have a 12-game season against all Power 5 teams.
That is correct.
That's brave.
No cupcake. Well, there is a cupcake. We'll get to that later.
Okay, so you got them. Kansas State. I wouldn't have them in my perfect. I don't have them in my perfect schedule.
That sounds completely understandable.
But now I'm dipping back into non-conference here as well, but I wanted a guaranteed win. So I actually wrote down SEMO because I'm like, yeah, let's throw a FCS game in there. We're going to have an FCS game.
It's fun to see the guys look superior to, this
and
FCS team.
And a lot of the SEC teams, like Alabama, they are playing their FCS opponent like way late in the season. Missouri's always playing theirs early.
Rest their players.
Yeah, and I feel like it's like, yeah, let's schedule this late and kind of use it as an extra bye week and kind of get some guys, back from injury and let people rest up.
Okay.
So I didn't go with SEMO though.
Oh, okay.
I have us playing Missouri State.
Okay. Very
Bringing
cool.
it back.
Very good. At home, I'm assuming.
Yes. Yeah, we're gonna have a home and home with Missouri State.
Hey, easy to go see.
Yeah,
that's true.
Old Bobby.
We went
marching into Columbia.
We actually went to Missouri State game last year when they were in the FCS playoffs, and everything from the bless their hearts over here in Springfield, but that stadium.
Yeah.
Oh,
it's pretty bad.
Everything, stadium, level of play. Yeah.
There's almost like a high school stadium element to it. It's like the super old school like concession stand and just like walking under the rafters and stuff to get to your seat and stuff. It has a very like old feel to it. Yeah. Like they haven't updated it very much and haven't really had a reason to.
True.
But a quick side note on that also, obviously Bobby Petrino is coaching at Missouri State if you didn't know that. We were sitting pretty close to the field and he was kind of like hovering over to the team just like screaming at them like cuss
the
words.
Offensive line. He laid into them.
He was so mad at them, and he'd kind of just like say whatever he needed to say, and he'd kind of like walk away, and then he'd just kind of like float back and say some more.
He'd like remember something else that he needed to scrutinize.
Just like say some other horrible things to them, and we could hear every word. It was hilarious.
I honestly, I wanted to be like, after he left, I wanted to be like, it's okay, guys.
It's okay, guys.
You can do it. Give him some encouragement.
Yeah,
holy crap.
Goodness. Anyways, Bobby's gonna get slaughtered in Columbia this year for sure. Sorry about that, Missouri State. My 8th game is on the road at Florida.
Perfect.
Classic SEC matchup in a pretty cool stadium.
Yeah, I agree with that. Okay, so I want to keep stacking wins in this imaginary schedule, but I needed to add another road game here. Who better to play on the road than Vanderbilt?
Yeah.
Let's just mark it down as a win. It looks a little bit better because now you can say Missouri has now won 3 true road games against Georgia, Texas, and Vanderbilt. That's looking good for like maybe if there's like a selection committee that might be looking at Missouri. We're feeling pretty good. Conference road games are hard to get, but they're much easier if the opponent is Vanderbilt.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I am currently 7-1. Going into week 9, I really liked your argument for playing South Carolina, and I don't have South Carolina in my schedule, but I at the same time think that you did a good job with that, and South Carolina is a great opponent for like real life and everything. So
yeah, and I agree with your takes on both Kentucky and Tennessee. They didn't make my list, but they could have been interchangeable with South Carolina or Vanderbilt.
Yeah, so why I'm saying that, I guess, is this spot I considered South Carolina, but I ended up going with an iconic matchup against Auburn. Kind of a very prestigious college football program. It is at home, but I am going to have us losing this game. Tough
way to keep it
loss.
realistic.
Yeah, I got to keep it realistic, but...
And Auburn's one of those teams that we haven't seen a whole lot since joining the SEC.
Yeah, and every time we've played them, we've done pretty bad.
Yeah, that SEC championship game.
Yes.
Oh, man.
Still nightmares.
The games to have back.
Trey Mason.
Oof. So you already covered this, but I have week 10. I've got us going on the road at LSU for all the reasons you said, and we're losing that game.
Wow.
So that's a little bit of a heartbreaker, but after 10 games, we are 8-2 right there. We have lost 2 conference games though, but we're right there in contention.
Mm-hmm.
We're ranked, maybe 15th or so in the polls. Looking good.
Looking good. Yeah, we're looking good, but I've got 3 games left on the schedule. We got to make kind of a good stretch run here. My 10th game is a rivalry game against Arkansas at home.
Okay.
And that's got to be a win.
Oh yeah.
We don't lose to Arkansas at home.
I've got at home against Arkansas for game 11.
Okay.
Second to last game of the year.
Yep.
We're playing Arkansas. We get the
I
trophy
guess,
with the 2 states on it.
Yeah, I guess this wouldn't line up with a Black Friday game, but
No.
it doesn't have to be.
Definitely
They're
doesn't.
forcing that.
Yeah. This is
This is our schedule.
This is where Arkansas and Missouri should meet in real life.
Yeah.
This isn't a forced rivalry.
Right.
This is, we don't like them. We're gonna play them. We're gonna beat them.
Mm-hmm.
But we're not gonna make a huge deal out of it.
No, and we're gonna take home that trophy that looks like it probably weighs 75 pounds.
Yeah. Put the gold thing in the borderline.
Absolutely.
Throw the red one in the trash.
Absolutely. You'll never need it again.
Yep.
All right. My second to last game of the year is a showdown at Arrowhead versus Kansas. And this is the cupcake I was telling you about.
Yeah. Okay.
Of course. So that's an automatic win. That's probably that's the game you circle on the schedule, man. You're going to Arrowhead. You're going to restore an old rivalry against a team that wouldn't beat you if you played 100 times. Like, there's nothing better than that.
I'm really intrigued what your final game is going to be, because my last game of the season is a matchup with Kansas in Kansas City. That's hearkening back to, obviously, the Saad Reesing game.
Just puts a smile on my face just thinking about
last game of the year. There's nothing better than putting the cherry on top. Unfortunately, I mean,
it's like they're out of they're winless anyway.
yeah, take it or leave it. It's not going to have that same
right
oomph
it's
behind
just
it.
Killing them for the sake of doing it.
Yeah.
Just having fun with it.
And
right?
just kind of riding off into the sunset.
Exactly. Okay, I can see that. I think that's the only reason I put it 11th.
Sure.
Just I didn't want to end on a non-conference game, but I still wanted to put that at the end of the year. My last game is for the SEC championship at home versus Georgia.
Okay. That would be biggest game ever.
Yes.
Jeez.
Yes. And we win, of course.
Okay.
We beat Georgia
Of course.
at home, obviously.
Yeah.
I
I mean, we beat them on the road.
We beat them on the
schedule.
road. We beat them on the road just a couple months before this, so we'll beat them again at home.
In an alternate timeline. I like Kansas as the last game because I feel like Georgia's always playing Georgia Tech. Florida's always playing Florida State. Somebody's playing Clemson. The last game
South
of the year.
Carolina does.
Yeah, there's those intra-conference matchups there, so I threw Kansas in there.
Okay.
I always feel left out when we're playing Arkansas and everybody else is playing their like regional
Actual rival.
non-conference rival.
Yeah. Yeah, I guess I should say this is for the regular season
Sure.
SEC title, of
Yeah.
course. And I mean, if I was gonna hypothetically pick the SEC championship game, like the actual playoff style game, I'd probably pick Alabama. That'd be fun.
Oh yeah. I mean, if you're ever going to be if Missouri is ever going to be accepted as legitimate in the SEC, that you could not deny Missouri in the SEC if they beat Alabama in the SEC championship game.
Mm-hmm.
Real life, potentially, probably, maybe, never going to happen, but
Yeah.
that would shut everybody up.
For sure. Neither one of us had Alabama on our schedule, but
I only want to see them in postseason play.
I feel like the 2014 SEC championship game, I mean, maybe I'm selling for mediocrity here, but I feel like it wasn't like awful.
No.
It was not terribly competitive by the end of the game, but
Well, and
I mean, you're playing against like a team full of NFL guys. It's
the
so
stakes
hard.
weren't there like they were the year before
Right.
either.
I don't think the team Mizzou wasn't as good. I felt like in 14.
Right. Well, I mean, they were going into the SEC championship game ranked like 17th or something, 14th or something.
Yeah, what a strange year that was. I literally watched them lose to Indiana.
Me too.
Yeah, we were both at that game. And then we just, I thought, I was like, okay, well, there goes the season.
But you can do that. You can lose a non-conference game and
Exactly.
still make the championship.
Yep.
And that sounds perfect.
For some reason, I specifically remember like Amari Cooper and like AJ McCarron, I think was maybe still there in 14. They were just absolutely carving us up, man. Yeah.
Yeah, well, I think the final score was something like 42-13.
Yeah, maybe it was worse than I remember.
Yeah. Well, it felt like
I was just proud of the boys for fighting their best and trying their hardest.
back-to-back SEC championship game appearances.
Yeah.
That's pretty nice.
Something to be proud of.
I feel like Florida was in that same boat not too long ago, where it was like they're not playing for really anything in the
Yeah.
postseason. They're just going to get rolled by Alabama.
They won like 2 or 3 SEC East championships there, like you
Yeah.
know, 4 or 5 years ago, before Georgia became like invincible.
Yeah.
Kind of weird to think about.
All right, so those are our schedules. Shockingly, not shockingly, very similar. But how can you not have Illinois, Nebraska, and Kansas?
Yeah, those are
like,
automatic.
man, that would be, honestly, there's no reason why they can't have those on the schedule.
Right. And it feels like we're getting back to that. It's
Yeah.
taking decades, but we're eventually going to get back to that.
Yeah, Illinois, right around the corner. Kansas, hopefully, right around there too. Yeah.
Never
we
thought
need
we'd
those
play
back.
Kansas in basketball before we played them in football.
That's pretty bizarre. It's unfortunate for Mizzou. Like,
Yeah, of course.
yeah. All right, so if we forgot anybody, I really had trouble trying to find a non-Power 5 team that kind of would be fun. I was just thinking back to teams we played in the past, like Arkansas State, you know, some of those that are kind of regional. So if you got a good one there, let us know.
Yeah, and if there's a good like 4th non-conference like Power 5 team, mine was Kansas State, but I
Yeah.
feel like there's a ton that you could sub in there that would be fun too.
Yeah, you don't want to. It seems like you kind of want to keep it in the recruiting ground a little bit.
I mean, you kind of were joking about this before we started recording, but we did have some fun games against Arizona State. We had like a
Yeah.
home and home with Arizona State. Both those games were great.
Yeah,
It's kind of random though.
yeah. Probably don't need to play Purdue anytime soon again. Probably don't need to play Boston College anytime soon again.
Yeah.
But yeah, let us know who you like for non-conference there. So that's our perfect Mizzou football schedule. Games are right around the corner.
Yeah.
And
It just made my heart flutter a bit.
oof.
Just give me the butterflies.
Yeah, this is, I don't know. The next, like, we're not quite there, but we're
Yeah.
coming up on maybe my favorite stretch of podcast episodes where we preview the players, preview the schedules, do 7-on-7 draft.
Y'all are gonna make me say my favorite time of year.
Say it.
I mean, like fall camp is literally like a couple weeks away. Like we're getting close.
Hopefully the weather changes.
I think I
Soon.
saw on like my little weather app that like maybe like in the very last days listed, whatever that would be, 9 or 10 days from now, or like low 90s, upper 80s.
We need it.
That sounds nice.
I saw maybe a little bit of rain in the forecast.
Mhm.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
All right, so that's all for this week. Special thank you to our Patreon supporters at the $10 level and above: Britt Treese, Brian Smith, Ryan Demore, Tristan, Ben Smith, Parker, Daddy JD, Luis Hernandez, Tim Keynes, Tyler Harsel, Brandon Garofalo, and Brandon Hanks. Thank you.
Thank you guys. We love you. And you can find this podcast on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts. We're on Twitter at Mizzou Sports Pod, and you can email us at MissouriSportsPod@gmail.com.
You can find our t-shirts and stickers on our online shop, MissouriSportsPod.BigCartel.com.
Thank you everyone for listening. We will see you next week.